In this video, I'll be covering the Lumix G7. Hello guys, my name is Sam from Live Production Tips and Tools, and today I'll talk about settings that you need for live streaming depending on your setup. So stick around and let's go. So let's talk about the settings that you need for live streaming. When you live streaming, you connect your camera through HDMI to your computer. At this point, you do not have an option to color grade or color correct your image coming from the camera. What you send is what you get. The most important thing is to be able to color grade or color correct your image in the camera. And now I am going to give you my best settings for this camera to make sure the image coming out of the camera has enough color, contrast, and saturation. So the first thing you need to do is to adjust your white balance, okay? So depending on where you're filming, usually let's say if you're filming outside, the colors, the light is different from filming inside. So it's important every time you change the environment to go to your camera settings and change your white balance. Alright guys, so make sure you have a white card. Something could be a white sheet or anything that is white, okay? Turn on your camera, okay? And make sure it's on M or movie, okay? On this dial. Go to this button, white balance or WB. Press it. You have different options. As you can see, you have auto white balance. This is if you want the camera to choose the balance for you, to choose the white balance for you. You have sunlight. You have like so many different options here, but what you want to do your custom white balance to just make sure it's precise, okay? So you go to custom 1 or custom 2, either way will work, okay? And you select white set, okay? And you make sure your white sheet is well lit, and make sure it's within the yellow square, okay? And once you're ready, click set, and it's completed, okay? So your white balance now is adjusted. Okay, the next thing is how you control your exposure, okay? Now you'll see that your camera will not give you an option to control your aperture. So to be able to do that, you need to go to menu and go to exposure mode and click choose M, okay? So once you do that, you go back. Now you have an option. As you can see, this is your aperture value. So this is your aperture that you can control with the front dial, and your shutter speed that you can control here, okay? And your ISO that you can easily control by pressing this button, okay? So let's start with your ISO. Your ISO, you want to make sure you keep it at maximum 800, okay? So all you have to do is click this ISO button here, okay? And you dial using the front dial, go down to 800, okay? Don't go over 800 because as soon as you hit 1600 and 3200, you start seeing some noise, okay? So try to keep it 800 or under. If you could do 400, it's even better, or 200, okay? So let's put to 800 for now, okay? And your shutter speed, it's gonna depend on let's say if you're shooting in 60 frames per second, usually you need to double that, so you do 125. If you're shooting 30 frames per second, then you need to keep it at 60. So you always do double of your frame rate, okay? we're gonna see the frame rate after this. Your aperture also would depend on the lens that you're using, but usually I always because the lower you go, the blurry background you'll be able to get, so I always keep it the lowest. So with this lens I can go up to 3.5, so I'm gonna keep it at 3.5. You can use you can control it by using the front dial. Okay, let's go over my live streaming settings. Okay, so for live stream, I don't really change that much. Okay, I like my live streams to be 60 frames per second, because the reason being the fact that it's always I've seen a lot of people when they are live streaming, when they do some movements or there's a motion in the video, you see the video is kind of choppy. Okay, so I always go here, record quality, and click choose full HD 60 frames per second. Okay, my record format I always keep it at MP4, and the most important thing that I'm going to change will be my photo style, because I want to be able to kind of color grade, like give it some color contrast, you know, right in the camera. Okay, because you don't have that option to edit before you post to live stream. So you live, so you want to make sure everything is done within the camera. Okay, so instead of using natural, I use standard. So I use standard profile. Okay, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to contrast. I add a little bit of contrast. I put a 1. You can put a 2 if you want, but I keep a 1 plus 1. And my sharpness, I always try to reduce my sharpness. I keep to -2. Okay, because I want the image to be a little smooth. And I keep my noise reduction at +2, and my saturation, this camera is already saturated, so I try to keep it at +1. Okay, and that gives me something, an image that's kinda okay and watchable and has color and contrast. You don't want to put too much, because if you put too much contrast and color, it's gonna look unreal. So you want to avoid that kind of thing. Okay, again, these are just my settings. You can always go ahead and, you know, kind of try to play with it, experiment with it, and see the results you get depending on your situation. Always remember to adjust your white balance. Never forget that. Okay, so once you're done, you click set and you ready to go. Okay, so as you can see, once you're done, you can see whenever you're filming or live streaming, you see everything. You got standard, you live streaming 60 frames per second. Okay, you can see your ISO here, you can see your shutter speed. So now for this, we're going to put our shutter speed at 125. So our shutter speed is going to be 125 because we're shooting at 60 frames per second, and our aperture stays the lowest you can get from the lens. Okay, now keep in mind this the shutter speed can always change. Okay, if you put it at 80 or 100 or 80, it's no big deal. You can always play with it, but don't go too low, because as soon as you go like 40, 50, then the image is not smooth. It starts to be you adding more light, but the image starts to be a little choppy, especially if there's some movements. I see a lot of people make that mistake, trying to push the shutter speed down to like 20, 30, like it's gonna start looking bad. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is how you get the clean HDMI out. Okay, because when you're streaming, once you connect your HDMI cable, you may see on your picture all this information, you know. See, if I click display, everything's gone, but you see this line. So to be able to get a clean HDMI out, also you need to, just 1 second, you need to go to menu, okay, and go down here to the third option, okay, and so you see the clock set, go down here, go to TV connection, okay, and once you reach TV connection, click to this TV aspect ratio, keep it at 16:9, HDMI mode, play, auto, HDMI info display. So if you put this on, your HDMI is going to have some information like, you know, or it's not gonna be clean, okay? So you want to go to HDMI info display and choose off, okay? And then in this way, it's going to give you a clean HDMI. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you hanging out with me. If you have questions, please put in the comments down below. I'll be happy to help you with anything. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you hate it, please let me know so I can improve. Thank you guys, and I'll see you on my next video.